So in the last class, yesterday, we did our first budget for a young couple who recently bought a house, okay? And we found that after entering their income for the month, and they have two sources of income because being a couple, both employed, setting them a certain amount, usually 10% for your monthly savings, and then taking into account all the expenses they have to pay in a month, they ended up with a surplus of $261.48. So that's the example we did yesterday. Couple of comments left on budgets. Prioritizing, okay? So obviously, when we do a budget, we want there to be a surplus. We don't want there to be a deficit, because a deficit means we're spending more money than we're making, and that's not a good thing. And it's going to get worse if we just continue to leave it at that. So we want to prioritize purchases, okay, within reason. So that means if we're looking at purchasing, say, some type of clothing, some type of furniture, maybe a vehicle or something like that, and we're running at a deficit or we're running at not much of a surplus, then maybe we need to put that off, okay? These are the rules you always want to follow, and I mentioned this yesterday. A good budget, after you calculate how much monthly income you have, is to automatically put 10% of that into some sort of savings account, bank account, checking account, savings account. We'll talk about types of bank accounts in the next lesson, okay? Often, that money is the first that people cheat on, which means if they're running at a deficit for a month, they'll look at, well, I'm supposed to put away, like this couple, let's say they were running at a deficit. Let's say that they were running at a deficit of 200 bucks. Well, they may look at that and say, well, if we eliminate this, if we don't contribute our month or our savings, then we're actually at a surplus. Yes, that's true, but then you're not building up any savings. You want to be building up savings, okay? It's hard to discipline yourself to do, because really you're putting this in some sort of bank account, usually a savings account, not a checking account, okay? But it might be easy to pull it out, especially if you need some money right now, okay? But if you're looking at bigger purchases down the road, like let's say you're in an apartment, you want to buy a house, you're going to need to build enough money for a down payment, okay? So you're going to have to build up some sort of savings account in addition to your sort of monthly living, so that you can afford a house. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to afford a house. And if you keep dipping into your savings to say, you want to buy a brand new winter coat that's going to cost you 800 bucks or something like that, okay? And you want to dip in your savings so you can do that. Yes, you may be able to get away with it, but you probably won't be looking at that house anytime soon. But maybe you're comfortable in an apartment, who knows? Anyway, you should always try and do that. One thing that you should not cut back on, okay, if you're working at a deficit, is any living expenses. And these expenses include, you can see here, mortgage payments, property taxes, or rental. I mean, you need to pay those because you need somewhere to live, okay? Utility payments like hydro and water, you need those in order to function. Food, groceries, because you need food in order to survive. So you can't really, you can't really cut back on those. Maybe you're spending, you know, maybe you can cut back on some groceries by buying cheaper brands or something like that. But things like living expenses and utility expenses, you can't cut back on. And then of course, whatever you're spending on per month, you know, do you really need what you're buying? If you don't really need it, then don't make it part of the budget and you'll end up with a surplus. Okay? So just as one last example, and this refers to the budget we just did. So this is the young couple, Jason and Kathy. We did their monthly budget and we saw that they had a surplus of over 200 bucks. They're looking at purchasing some furniture that costs $725.50. In your opinion, should they buy it this month? What do you think? They're working at a surplus of just over 200, what was it, 260 something? 261.48. What are their options? What do you think they could do? What's that? Yeah, they could wait a few months because after a few months, if they keep a surplus of 260, after 3 months they'll have this much, so they'll be able to buy the furniture. So they could do it that way. Should they dip into their savings? The amount that they put away for savings? Because like here, they put away this much in savings. They also get 260. That's almost 600 bucks. Okay. So maybe they could if they dip into their savings. Should they? No. Avoid that trap. Okay. Especially if you're using that money for something else that you want down the road, like a brand new vehicle, maybe an expensive vacation or something like that. If they're putting away, say, to buy furniture, then yeah, maybe they can use what's in their savings account to buy it. What's the other possibility besides waiting 3 months? Couldn't they just put it on credit? Do the buy now, pay later plan? Because that money will be coming in down the road, won't it? Because if they don't pay the full amount by the time that it's due, they'll have to pay interest.
So if they're willing to go into a deficit position for something that's not necessary, there's no guarantee that they'll actually pay.
True. That is very true. Okay. But so it does remain a possibility, but there are disadvantages to that possibility. Okay. So the surplus was 261.48. Yeah, 261.48. Options. Wait a few months. To purchase. Meaning they could build up their surplus. Okay. They could put it on credit now, a credit card, or a buy now, pay later plan. Okay. Card, buy now, pay later. And then pay it off as they go. It's a possibility, but you know, a lot of, again, it's personal preference. What are you comfortable with? You know, if you don't like things on a credit card, if you don't like getting a credit card statement online or in the mail that's saying this is how much you owe because it makes you anxious, that you don't want to go that route. You'd probably want to say, nope, I'm going to wait a few months until I actually have the amount to pay it off completely. Some are okay with some debt because, and they want it right now. Maybe it's on sale right now or something like that. Okay. So they pick it up now and they're okay to pay a little credit because of it. Okay. This